and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning to yet another beautiful African morning. We are live from the Kruger National Park, and this is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
We are starting our morning with a beautiful herd of Impala. Good morning once again to everyone. How nice is that, all the little babies together in a little creche this morning. Bit of aloe grooming going on the left of screen there. Nice. A lot of movement of the tails and the body shimmerings. Chasing away flies early on this morning already. Just see all those little mouths going. More grooming. Getting themselves ready for the day. Nice and cool morning this morning. Only about 21 degrees centigrade, around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So a lovely morning to be out in the bush. My name is FW, and with me on camera this morning I have Davy. Alright folks, so our plan for this morning, we're going to check the northern boundary, see if we can get some tracks of the Nkohumas, and then work to try and find them for you this morning. In the meantime, let's move on, let's carry on, let's see what else is out there. We'll slowly creep up to these Impala, have a nice look at them again. Beautiful. Bye bye, you lovely Impalas. Alrighty, let's go see if we can find some tracks of those cats. There's a nice yellow-billed hornbill sitting on that dead stump. Also having a good look for some grasshoppers or something to jump out of the grass and give it a nice early morning snack. Should we carry on? Folks, remember to send in those questions on our Twitter handle, #SafariLive. If you have any screenshots or anything you want to share with us as well, please send them through. Sorry for the bumps, Darby. Oh. Ouch. Righty. From here on until Sydney's Dam, we need to have a good look if there's any tracks crossing this boundary road coming in or out, so we can figure out what our plans are going to be for this morning. So, good morning, Sherilyn. You are asking if gazelle and impala are the same thing. No, they are not. We don't get gazelle in southern Africa, so they're all up in East Africa, Kenya and Tanzania, with the Serengeti and the Masai Mara and all those places. We don't see any gazelle down south here. So, a thing in southern, a nice warthog, a thing that's looks almost similar to gazelle, like the body colors and almost size, is a thing, or antelope called the Steenbok, which we also don't get in the area around the Kruger National Park. You find them in the Kalahari and the grasslands further west into the country. Where's that warthog disappeared to? Oh, there it's coming. There we go. Just one little branch. Nice big male warthog. A lot of dried mud on it. I was rolling around in the mud probably yesterday when it was so hot. It's cooling down and cleaning itself a bit. Still some of that evidence on it. Alright, let's move on. Let's see. Just having a quick look over my shoulder if the sun's come up already. Not yet. Try and find a nice spot for the sunrise. I think the sun's going to be up properly in about 5 minutes from now. So we've got a bit of time to still look for some animals, then we'll try and find a nice sunset. Oh, Chris, you would like to know my most hilarious encounter with an animal. At some stage, I worked down in the southern Sabi Sands, and it was this random female ostrich that would come visit one of the open areas every now and then, and she had this, I don't know where she learnt it, but she started pecking at the vehicle. So she'd come up to you, and any bright thing she'd start pecking at. So steering wheel, and the one day I put my hand out like this and she picked my hand. Then I thought, okay, let me test it a bit more, and I took my hat off and I put my hat on my finger, and she ended up stealing my hat. I had to wait for her to move off a tiny bit before I could collect it again. So she just took it and dropped it and moved on. But yeah, that was quite a lot of fun. She scared quite a few people. Everyone, oh, this is so cute when she plays with a guide or when she plays with a vehicle. But as soon as she moves to the back of the vehicle, everyone pushes each other and they almost fall off on the other side. So it's always a lot of fun to look at. I wonder, Darby, should we quickly turn around here and just have a look at the sunrise? Grey duiker that's just, I think it was sleeping in this mitre drain and just bolted off. There we go. Hello. Always so shy, shame. We don't bring anything that wants to hurt you. Just relax. Very nervous little guy. So the name duiker, if you translate it back to English, is diver. And the way that they run, they've got this diving motion. And that's, I suppose, when the first people came to Africa and they gave it probably a Dutch name. And that's how it got its name, and it just stuck. Well, that's my understanding of it. Right, let's quickly turn around here, have a look at the sunrise. I think it's always worth taking a couple of minutes out of whatever you've planned already to just enjoy a sunrise and then carry on with the rest of your day. It should come up somewhere over here. Let's try and find a nice spot. Darby, you just let me know when you have a nice shot there. Sorry? Sure. And I think just taking a bit of time and listening to things around you might give you an idea of where animals might be, or if any lions are calling or leopard are calling. Just 5 minutes of a bit of quiet time and just listening out. I don't know how much of the sun we're going to get with this cloud bank moving in. This stage is just birds saying good morning. If we're not going to see much of the sun, I think we're going to get beautiful colors coming through these clouds. Kathy, you say that you love African sounds. Yeah, I think it's sounds that you can't not like or love. It's just something special about African sounds. If you think about a fish eagle, excuse me, or a lion roaring, there's nothing that portrays Africa, I think, than those two. And all the others, but yeah, those two for me are the most special ones. Hyena, you can't look past a hyena at night. Even sleeping close to a big river and you hear those hippos calling, it's also amazing. There's already a bit of pink coming through the clouds. Here we go. Being up at the crack of dawn, you might feel tired some mornings, but just looking at this takes all that away and makes you energized and ready for an awesome day out in the bush. There's a red-crested korhaan calling somewhere to our left. Just hear that beak clicking and then that twitty, 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 twitty. Trying to impress a lady there. If everyone is happy with the sunrise, I think we should start carrying on, start moving on, see if we can pick up on some lion tracks. Even to the west you can see those colors in the clouds coming from the sun. It's almost double this morning, sunrise and sunset at the same time. I suppose somewhere in the world the sun is setting. Alright, well, sounds like Jamie's out and about as well. Let's head over to her and see what she's up to.
And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome to our sunrise safari, where I'm sure you'd all like to see a sunrise. But before we show you that, my name is Jamie, and this morning I have Rion on camera with me, and you're on a live safari here in the middle of Djuma Private Game Reserve, and we are searching, for those of you that missed the pre-show, we're searching for Queen Karula and her cubs. But before we get on to that, let's have a look at this glorious sunrise that it's poking its way over the horizon. It's just quite simply lovely. What a beautiful, beautiful morning it is. I have a sincere feeling I'm going to regret forgetting to pack the sunblock. Nice and cool now, but I have a feeling that is going to change. Isn't that gorgeous? I don't know what word. That was a mixture between glorious and gorgeous, and it came out gorgeous. Get the idea. Beautiful. We are now, for those of you that are sharp-eyed and were watching the pre-show, we're now on Jigger. We started off on Wendy, we are now on Jigger. Wendy was feeling a little bit tired and run down, quite literally her batteries were nearly flat. So we're on Jigger this morning. Right, so here's the plan. I've just spoken to James and Herbie and Eggsy, who will be on camera, and I've told them about the tracks and the fact that Karula was seen on the damn camera this morning. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave them to walk straight in there, and I'm going to loop all the way around and just see whether or not Karula hasn't pulled one of her sneaky maneuvers on us. We were chatting about, on the pre-show, we were chatting about how the last time Karula, she's a leopard by the way, for those of you that are new to these safaris, the last time we'd seen Karula on the dam camera, she went north with the cubs, and then as I sort of bumbled around there, she was found on the southern section, south of our traverse area. So she has a tendency to do, excuse me, do the unexpected. And I just want to check she hasn't done that today. I'm not going to make the same mistake. So I'm going to check south, and I'm going to check east. The bushwalk team will check to the west, and all together we should find her. I'm sure we're all very keen to know whether or not she managed to catch something to eat last night. And I do apologize for the odd cough. I feel 10 times better this morning. It's just a residual little hack. But unfortunately, most of the crew seems to be coughing and sniffling. Okay, so let me show you something very, very cool, because they're so beautiful in this morning light. Hold on a second, where were they now? I'm going to say they're where my tire tracks go off the road from earlier, and where I turned around. When I say they're beautiful in this morning light, perhaps that was a slight exaggeration. Oh, that will do, that will do. So, we've got leopard tracks here in the dirt, and you don't just have to take my word for it, because I know they're a little bit tricky to see in this morning light. So let me show you. Now, I'm going to do something counterintuitive, but I've sort of explained why to you, so you'll understand when I stop to have a look at these tracks. Okay, beautiful. Alright, I'll take that. Beautiful was a serious exaggeration. They're almost invisible. Which ones are going to be best? This one, probably. Can you see this one, Rion? Or can you see this patch of dirt? I should be more specific. So this patch of dirt, upon this patch of dirt lies a tiny leopard track belonging to Shongile, I think. And although it's very difficult to see, there's 3 little lobes at the back, which immediately tells us that it is a cat, and then 4 gorgeous, perfect little toes over here. So the tracks are going this way, straight past where I was sleeping last night, so the house that we live in called Inger's. So that is one set of tracks coming along here. There is a second one belonging to Hosanna that goes off over there, and Karula's probably somewhere in the mix around here. Let me see if I can do a quick count. It's definitely 1. He's gone off somewhere that way. And the rest of the ground's a little bit hard in this light to actually see Karula's tracks. But we know they were together. And we know that they were seen on the dam camera, all 3 of them together. So, I'm going to do something counterintuitive, as I said. I'm going to go opposite to where the tracks go. I feel like that should be our standard approach when tracking Karula. Oh, her tracks are going that way. Okay, I'll go the other way. I'm joking, of course. But she might have gone to fetch the cubs to go to a kill, which would be typical female leopard behavior. However, she might also just have gone to fetch them to bring them with her because she felt like she was a little bit too far away from them. Now, I know that bushwalk team is going to be helping us follow up on where Karula's gone. However, in the meantime, they've encountered an animal that definitely wouldn't want to encounter Karula.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the bushwalk side of things today. Very special guest on camera today, Eggsy. Good morning, Eggsy.
Good morning, sir.
Eggsy's on camera. My name is James Hendry, in case you're wondering, and Herbert is on security detail. He's just had to nip back to camp to fetch something. Those are Impala. A nice herd of them that was lurking around rather close to the camp. Now, they don't normally come close to the camp, save for if they've seen something that might have wanted to eat them. So that's very good news. It means maybe Karula is around here. We are indeed going to go and find the last tracks of the great queen and her 2 offspring, Shongile, Hosanna. And while we do that, hopefully, or during the course of doing that, hopefully we'll actually find them, perhaps on a kill. That's what we want to do, and we want to tie that, of course, nicely into our narrative of the royal family for our TV show, which, of course, is on Sunday night at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the United States. That's 6 o'clock Central African Time. Now, there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, yes, we did do that experiment yesterday. It didn't work so well with the Nyala, where I went across the clearing, sort of trying to be baboon-like. The Nyala took fright and ran away. We're not sure if they took fright at Evia, who was coming along the road, or if it was the drone, but we're going to try again sometime later today, with any luck, when Connor is out in the drone. I'm not sure if that's going to happen this morning, but maybe we'll have to try it this afternoon. So that is the state of play. today. Good, excellent. We're going to head down that way. I just wanted to show you quickly one flower, and that's this thing here. This is wild basil. Now, I spoke extensively about it yesterday, most of it nonsense, of course, because I said these things were not petals. They're leaves, they're modified leaves. And you can see now what I mean. If we go, Egbert, to this white thing here, that white thing is the flower with the petals, and the purple, clearly some kind of, well, it's a leaf, but why it should be purple, I don't know. And why it's an interesting question is that the colors of the flower, of course, are normally used to attract whatever kind of vector or pollinator there is for the flower. And in this case, well, clearly the flower is white and the leaves are purple. And why would that be the case? Why would it need two different colors to attract vectors? I don't know at all. And these flowers are white, so I'm going to smell one, because the white ones are normally the ones that smell nice. And this Egbert smells not at all. The leaves, however, do smell like basil. Rather too powerful basil, though. I suspect if you put this on your food, or your chorizo, not chorizo, what's the one, caprese salad, I think that you wouldn't enjoy it very much. There we go. And you said it reminds you of lavender. It doesn't remind me of lavender, I must say. I find it very different indeed. Am I thinking of lavender? Yes, I am. Those things that grow all over the south of France in the summertime. It doesn't remind me of that, and it doesn't smell the same. But it's very herby. It does have a very herbaceous kind of smell. Smells like a spice rack, if you like. Many of the plants, especially on quarantine, which might be described as a disturbed area because it has been grazed extensively, many of the plants or pioneer species that come up in an area like this do smell very herby, and that's to dispel animals from eating them. So although we quite like the flavour of basil on our caprese salads, the Impala do not, and so they avoid these trees and plants because of the oils, aromatic oils. Delicious. Egbert, are you ready to carry on? Marvellous. Let's go. Herbert has returned. He's wandering down the road there. Need to retrieve my stick. Abigail, you're in Canada, and I think you've just asked me, I'm sorry, I'm struggling to hear Final Control this morning. I think you've just asked me if I can find you a stinky flower and some dung, perhaps, for your dung scrapbook there in Canada. I've never met anybody before, Abigail, who has a dung scrapbook. It's quite an unusual pastime you seem to have developed for yourself. There's definitely one plant I can find for you. Very patiently found for me every time they come out by Judy H, and that's Clerodendron glabrum, which is a foul-smelling thing. It smells like diesel. We'll be able to find that, I'm sure, probably if not on this clearing here, just over the crest there. I know where that is. Dung, of course, is everywhere. The smelliest kind of dung would be lion dung, so maybe or leopard dung. Maybe when we find Karula's tracks, she'll have left us a little prize that you can put in your dung scrapbook. What an astounding thing to have. Good. A dung scrapbook. Marvellous. Okay. Anyway, was saying it's about 21 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And I think that's rather pleasant for walking in. I'm not sure if we're expecting any rain. There certainly seems to be a little bit of cloud around. Not a huge amount, and if we look over there, that is the direction from which most of our rain comes. But interestingly, hey, that is quite interesting. The cloud is moving the opposite way. It's not coming from there, it's actually going towards there. So I think we're probably in for a slightly scorching day. Very nice. Scorching. Then there were two flowers here that I wanted to compare with each other. This Heliotropum, the string of stars, and this Oleander, the one that makes the red dye. The roots you can take apparently to make red dye. And they look very similar superficially. So were you to find one of them alone, one string of stars alone, you'd probably confuse them. But you can see that they grow very differently. I think that's quite cool. Right, we're going to continue down off to the south and then down to the west, and hopefully we'll be very lucky and find Karula. In the meantime, FW, Frederick Willem, would like to give you an update.
We are still checking the boundary roads, if there are any tracks for lion coming out. We have found what looks like one male lion, but it looks like it's fairly up and down, so we're just going to keep working this area and see if we can find or figure out what's happening, what's the story, or what story these tracks are going to tell us. Yeah, we'll keep moving every now and then, stop and listen. Maybe we get some audio from these lions. That'll make our life a bit easier to try and pinpoint where they are if they do decide to call. But yeah, let's keep moving. Let's see. A lot of activities, a lot of hyena activity in this area as well. And these lions were up and down, crossing over. So it's just trying to figure out if it's the tracks of yesterday that Taylor had when she was looking for them, or if it's all new tracks. So let's see. Some of these tracks, there's already vehicles that have driven over them, so that gives us an indication of age as well. Maybe only last night or very early this morning someone had driven here. As we drive along this road, we might get some bumps here and there. Just bear with us. I just want to get my map ready so that I can know where we are when we pick up tracks. I must just not focus so much on the tracks. Where are my binoculars? Please don't drive in front of me now. There's something up ahead on the road. No, it's Impala that's running off. Let's just double check that. Somewhere far in the distance. No, it was Impala. And some bare patches of soil that gave me the impression of being a lion. Well folks, I'm going to keep trying to figure out what's happening here. In the meantime, let's go see if Jamie's having any luck with the leopard tracks.
So far, no luck with our leopard tracks, but I actually had something really exciting to show you for those of you that are keen birders. So while we're tracking the big cats, of course, we're also looking for all kinds of other exciting things. And sometimes those exciting things come in other forms. Now, for those of you that are keeping bird lists, there is a potential, I need to be careful of what I say because there's absolutely no guarantees. However, there is a potential of seeing. Oh dear, this is... Okay, you'll have to look at it sideways, unfortunately, because the orientation of the picture is wrong. There is a potential to see this little bird. Now, for those of you that are experienced birders, you might be forgiven for thinking that it is, in fact, a yellow-throated longclaw. I'm so sorry it's upside down. There's nothing I can do, though. It is not a yellow-throated longclaw. It is something known as a golden pipit. It was seen on Simbambili a couple of days ago, and that is very, very unusual. And in fact, it is one of only 20 recorded in this area. Sorry, Herbie, stand by one. So that is a very, very, very exciting find. Now, it's very easily confused, apart from that little white bit around the eye and the smaller size, yellow under the wings. It's very easily confused with another type of bird, as I said, the yellow-throated longclaw. Now, the yellow-throated longclaw we get, some of you might even have it on your bird lists. This is the yellow-throated longclaw. There we go. That one's got a little bit more white around the eyes and white under the tail. The golden pipit has only yellow under its tail. Now, this is a bird that I am going to be looking for almost as keen, not the yellow-throated longclaw, that's old news. Not old news, but it's not nearly as exciting as the golden pipit. And pipit. Why do I keep saying pipit like it's a science experiment? A pipit. And the golden pipit is found in eastern Africa and in Zambia. They do not occur here, so that creates mass excitement like you cannot believe. So I'm going to be looking for it. Look, the chances of us seeing it might be slim. We're right next to Simbombili. You never know, birds of wings, they fly. And that, if we see it, if, the golden if, like the golden pipit, if we see it, is one that you will add to your bird list once and only once while you're watching these live safaris while they're on Djuma. We might see them in Kenya. Of course, we've got all sorts of exciting plans to travel. So while we're looking for our newer viewers, while we're looking for the big cats, we're also looking for some of the smaller things as well. And the golden pipit, it isn't even in my birding app that I have installed, because that's only Southern Africa. It's in my bird book because that's the book, that's Birds of Africa. But that is definitely something that we want to find. Sorry, Herbie, go ahead. Just let me chat to Herbie. He's going to help me find these leopards this morning. From where? Sorry, Herbs? Sorry, guys. Such a cute little Nyala. There's 3 little babies here. Herbie, sorry, please repeat where they cross north. Okay, copy. I'm sure that's when they were walking towards the pan. I'm on Twin Dams now, no sign of any Nkonzo. Okay, so Herbie's just updating me on the last position of the tracks. Now this is a little creature that Karula would absolutely love to encounter. And how cute is this? 4 little baby Nyala. Hello, little ones. Don't go wandering too far. I don't know where that leopard is, but she would very much like to catch you. Slightly light-coloured one. Look how many stripes that little Nyala has. And of course, each Nyala has fingerprint-type stripes. Each one is completely unique. So if we really wanted to, we could identify each and every individual Nyala that we see. Ah, here comes a concerned mum. 2 concerned mums. Excuse me, little ones, where do you think you're going? Going to make sure that they collect them up again. So it just seems as though there's little baby Nyalas everywhere. Sweetheart. Right, which one's mine now? That one. Cute. I don't think I've ever seen a full baby Nyala that small before altogether. And then a little male trundling along behind. So definitely one of our prettiest antelope. I'm just going to wait for the entire herd to cross before I move forward. I don't want to separate the mums and the babies. That would not be fair of me at all. So there's some still crossing. So we'll just wait. Stuck in Friday morning traffic. Life is tough, is it not, Rion? Yep. Oh, just these traffic jams everywhere. Now, sweet history, you want to know how old I think those little baby Nyala are. And of course, we've got one here, a little male, that's probably coming up to, if I had to guess, 8-9 months. But you're talking, of course, about the little ones. Sweet history, if I had to guess, I'm no expert on aging in Nyala, but I have actually spent a little bit of time watching little Nyala grow up. If I had to guess, I would say around about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, but it's a guess. They do grow incredibly quick, just in the same way that our little Impala do. And you don't grow quick, you grow quickly. Apologies for not using the correct adverb there. They grow quickly. So if I had to guess, I'd put them at around a month old. They're still very, very young. They're definitely still at the age where they would be suckling. Now, of course, our Nyala don't have a strict breeding season, but they do have a peak breeding season, which is now. This is when most of them have their little ones, which, as with all animals, most of you know, makes total sense. It's the rainy season, there's more food, therefore there's more food for little Nyalas. And little Nyalas, there's a little one there, little Nyala mean more food for Karula. A couple of weeks ago on our live safaris, we actually saw Karula catch a baby round about this size, maybe a little bit smaller, a little bit younger. She caught a baby Nyala, and Hosala actually came in, and I don't know if I would say that he chased her off the kill, because he didn't really. He went and hissed at her, and she relinquished it and allowed Hosana to practice killing something, and he did very, very effectively and very quickly. So at 9 months of age, oh, surprise! That's not an Nyala. That's also something that would want to avoid Karula. It is in fact a Dacre. A grey or a common Dacre. Strutting along, looks like a female. I didn't see horns, but I could be mistaken. I was thinking about Nyalas and Karula, and how perhaps this might be a good place for her to emerge. She's here somewhere. She is definitely here somewhere. Okay, sorry everybody, I just need to listen to this conversation quickly. Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm listening to the conversation about tracking these leopards, and Rexon, our beloved Rexon, just said, okay, groovy, on the Game Drive channel. How cool is that? There goes our little Dacre dashing across the road. That's probably the longest sighting we've had with a Dacre in a long time. Definitely a female, no horns. So that is a fully grown antelope. Much, much smaller than the Nyala that we were looking at earlier. Okay, groovy. Let's go find Karula. Oh, that is the best. I know, Liz. I'm with you as well. So we've been watching the tiny little baby Nyala, who are so terribly sweet and innocent looking. But Liz says that her year will be complete when the kudu babies emerge. Agreed. Completely. I can't wait until we see the first baby kudu of the season. We saw one last year. Gosh, terrifying that it was a year ago. There were baby kudu around this time last year. We actually spent some time... We spent some time tracking the kudu herds, which I've never done before up until I started this particular vocation. Let's Safari Live. Here we go, little guys. Let's have another look at our Nyala while talking about kudu. We actually tracked and searched for the kudu herds that looked pregnant, tried to find them. And we succeeded with one once. We didn't see the live birth, but we did see the baby as it was still wobbly and wet from the birth itself. And that was a truly, truly special moment. I've never seen a kudu give birth, so it's something that I would love, 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 love to show you. And sometimes it's nice on the search for leopards to just stop and listen to the sounds of the bush. There are many, many eyes out here, not just those of Nyala, birds, monkeys, Rexon. It's nice to just listen to the sounds and see if there's any alarm calls. You can see the Nyala are on alert, but then Nyala always are on alert, constantly checking around. Excuse me. And for our new viewers, the fact that we're seeing antelope doesn't mean that Karula isn't somewhere in the vicinity. while we look at a female, and then the little male behind it, a lovely question coming through from Ellen in Arkansas. Good morning, as always, Ellen. Very good question about whether or not there's a similarity between the stripes on the mum and stripes on the baby. I'm going to say something that's not particularly profound. The answer is yes, but not always. So I apologize for that. I know that's not the best answer in the world. It's kind of like leopard spots. Hey, mister, behave yourself. Are you causing trouble? You chased them away now. Ellen, there is a female Nyala that used to live in the camp, in the area that I worked in before I started working here. And we used to call her Lady J because she had a backwards J on her shoulder. And for years, we'd see her, because I was there for quite a long time, we'd see her with new offspring, and the stripes were, we never saw another one with a backwards J until right before I left, if I'm not mistaken. So right before I left, you okay there, Rian?
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay, no problem. Yeah, right before I left, there was a Nyala lamb born with a backwards J to her. So it wasn't quite as distinctive. It was a little bit wobbly and a little bit shaky. But yes, obviously there is a degree of genetic relatedness between the female stripes and their offspring stripes. But again, of course, the father's genetics will also feature in terms of whether or not the stripes look the same. So the answer is sometimes, which isn't a very helpful answer, but it does happen. Rightio, let us go and see if we can find Karula. And while we do that, we'll go over to the gentleman who is helping us with that endeavour, Mr. Henry.
Right, we've come to the pan where she was seen drinking last night, and thank you all for your screenshots on that. It was rather a nice thing to wake up to. So there's the pan. And there's Herbie just doing some tracking and investigating. This is, of course, the best way to try and find exactly where she's gone from here. I don't know if any of you know or can give us a suggestion as to where she's gone. Hashtag Safari Live question to WildEarthTV if you would like to make a suggestion. We're going to go purely on the direction of the tracks, though, rather than on sort of trying to figure it out from the camera, because the tracks, they don't lie. Not that I'm casting any aspersions on you and saying that you might lie about it, but it is very difficult to tell because they could disappear down in here, go left or right, out and then turn in a certain direction. And so the best thing to do is to just actually find the tracks. So that's what we're going to be doing. And Douglas, you reckon they went northeast across the dam, so that would be that way. Now, Douglas, that would be consistent with what, her general movement. So she picked them up down sort of pretty much between this water source and between Treehouse Dam, almost exactly halfway. The fact that she brought them here tells me that she's got some meat in there, somewhere around here. Could be somewhere in the drainage line there. She could have gone maybe a little bit southeast once she went away from the dam, so that's possible. But my inkling is exactly that she's come through here, had a drink, and taken the cubs off, perhaps towards a kill. Could be as close as just across the drainage here. It could be as far away as Buffelshoek. We don't know. We'll find out. We know how far that she does roam. That's wonderful English. We know how far it is that she can roam. Then we have a blacksmith lapwing over there. Isn't that lovely, Eggsy? That's not an easy shot for me to ask you to do. You got him. Well done. Blacksmith lapwing. And it's making its blacksmith sound. Ding, 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 ding. Sort of in alarm because Herberto is walking down towards the dam to see if he can find some tracks there. Then, Drew, you're wondering, how do we know the difference between a lion and a leopard track? Well, come over here with me, Drew, and I will attempt to show you. Herbert circled a track here, and it'll be a leopard track. Here it is. Now, I knew this was going to be the case. It's one of these tracks that, unless you are a tracker of very fine repute, it's really quite difficult to see. That's it there. Isn't that obvious, everybody? You can see exactly where the leopard's gone. I mean, that's just a joke. I wouldn't have known what on earth that was. I can see now because he circled it. Anyway, let me show it to you. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 front pads, or front toes, and then a little back pad. And I don't know, Drew, if you've got a house cat, but basically all cats' tracks look like a house cat's track. So get your cat, turn it upside down, tickle it on the belly, and then look at its feet. That's what the tracks look like. But in a house cat, they're that big. In a leopard, female leopard, they're that big. In a male leopard, they're that big. In a lioness, they're that big. And on a male lion, a very big male lion, they'll be almost the same size as my hand. But the shape is essentially the same. There are very slight variations. And front and back feet look slightly different, but essentially all cat tracks look pretty much the same. 3 lobes at the back, the 4 toes, and quite an exploded track. In other words, the front toes pads don't touch the pads at the back. So that's basically how you tell the difference. I'll try and find something more obvious than that. I mean, that's almost impossible to do. Hello, Zumi. Say hello, Egbert. There we are. Hello, Marco, Siberia Zumi. Nice to see you. I do apologize. The other day I threw you under the bus slightly when we needed your help, and we were in the tent, and I forgot, of course, that there's a fairly substantial delay from what you see, and then of course you're in Canada, I think, and you're operating the damn camera is not quite as instantaneous because of where you are as it is here. So I'm sorry for throwing you under the bus there when we were looking for the Hardy-Dars. There is Jamie Patterson. She too is looking for Karula. There we are. She's now in Jigger. She started in Wendy. She's quite fussy, obviously. There we are. She's waving at us. And she is being filmed by Rian. Now, Rian was supposed to be on walk today. Unfortunately, he couldn't be on walk today, and he had to go and drive because Brian's feeling a little bit sick. So I tapped on Rian's door today. Now, you know how it is when somebody wakes you up and you think you're supposed to be awake. You know, that horrible feeling? Rian has very clearly had that feeling this morning. I said, "Good morning, Rian, how are you?" He said, "Yes." But he's okay now. Eggsy had the same experience. He also had to get up and come on walk. Right, Herbert has gone down through here. Yeah, Soraya, this applies to just about every other animal around here. You say, is it more difficult to spot Karula because of the thicker bush? Absolutely it is. It's more difficult to spot everything because of this thicker bush. And so it really does take a lot more skill to find animals in conditions like this. And the other thing that makes it more difficult is, of course, water. There's so much standing water all over the place, which means that animals can go and drink just about anywhere. And in the dry season, sort of October, November, and I mean, right, it's amazing sightings here because the water was so concentrated. So there were animals absolutely everywhere. But because the water spread out now, it's difficult. You know, at one stage that was the only water point or the only bit of water for probably 5 miles or so. And so you'd always just start there because everyone had to come and drink there, so there'd always be tracks, and that would be your starting point. And you can't really do that now. One of the best sightings of Karula I ever had, we were sitting at that pan during the dry season. It was probably October-ish 2015, and I was just scanning around here with the binoculars, and I stopped there because Karula was sitting just underneath those 2 fallen logs, and she was waiting for something the right size to pick up at the pan so that she could go and catch it. All I saw was her head sticking out, waiting. There were all sorts of animals here that had no idea the leopard was watching them. And Eggsy was saying to me as we were walking down here, he said, "How many times do you think you've walked past a leopard?" And I said, "More times than I've walked past a leopard and spotted it. Many, many more times. And I hate to think how many times I've driven past a leopard as well." Alright, we're going to go up through here. There's another game drive on the trail. While we do that, Evia is probably still looking for lions.
well, we haven't found any lions yet, but a lovely little southern tree squirrel to look at. And as it disappears off into the bush. Yeah, it looks like the tracks for the Nkuhumas have gone north. So they have moved out of our area. We're going to carry on. We're going to try and head maybe over to Cheetah Plains. We'll see how the morning takes us and where it takes us. But yeah, let's keep moving and see if there's any other activity around. Little bounding squirrel. They've got quite an interesting track. The way they move is, if you'll just on a road or something, or a patch of soil, you'll see these tracks sitting like this. So their front paws will always be quite close together, and then the back paws bounding over quite wide. Not always the easiest track to find to try and show you, but if we come across it, I'll definitely point it out. Yeah, I think we're gonna keep moving. I can't confirm 100% that the Nkuhumas have crossed out, but all the tracks are heading in that direction. I just can't see anything on the boundaries itself. So wherever we've looked, everything's been heading north. Kennedy and Danny, you're asking if, with the 3 different prides of lions that we've been seeing over the last couple of drives, if the Birmingham males are mating with all of them. From what I can gather, it looks like I think it's only 2 of the prides that they will mate with. I don't think they're mating with the Tsalala pride. I might be wrong. I'm open for correction, but my feeling is just the 2. So it's only the Sticks and the Nkuhumas. I think these the Tsalala pride they might have just moved in by chance. I don't know how often they're seen in this area. So yeah, and from a bit of the history of the Tsalalas as well, that gives me that idea, is that they've moved away to protect the youngsters from some males. I think it was the Majingilan males that the mothers hid these cubs from. So I don't think they're going to be, until those males are away from the females completely, then they might start mating with different male coalitions. But for the moment, I don't think there's going to be any mating. I really do hope there'll be some good luck this morning with Jamie and James looking for the royal family, or parts of the royal family, that you'll be able to see them. I need to stop for this one. So, Abigail in Canada, good morning. Let's get a spider web out the way. You are asking about my most horrifying animal encounter. I think I have told the story before. It was horrifying, but also, I wouldn't say entertaining, but yeah, there's a lot of emotions connected to it. And it was when a female leopard got killed by a male and a female lion. So yeah, you don't know what is happening. You don't know how to explain it. You just sit there and you're like wide-eyed. Yeah, there's nothing you can really say. So what had happened is the lions were following this leopard for a while. She was up in a tree, down a tree, kept getting away from them. And it happened 3 or 4 times that she got up into the tree, and I think the lions figured out what she was doing. She was a young leopard, so she didn't really have all the experience and kind of patience to just stay up in the tree until the lions got bored and moved off. But yeah, the last time she came down, they were ready for her at the base of the tree, and they just unfortunately killed her. The sounds were the most horrifying. All grunting when she got down, and then all of a sudden just absolute quiet silence. And then you could hear a bone break, and that was it. The lions roared for a minute or two, and then walked off, leaving the poor leopard's carcass there. Yeah, just done. So they're not interested in eating. It's just purely an assassination, not wanting any competition. That was quite tough to watch. Another tough one to watch was when buffalo found some young lion cubs. Small herd of male buffalo found these lion cubs, and they trampled them. And you just see these little bodies scurrying into the brush, into the thickets, and you just see these buffalo chasing them, trying to trample them. I think one or two of the cubs eventually died from the injuries, but yeah, it's tough to watch those things. It's really not that nice. Luckily, the leopards have the ability to fight back, and I saw a fight between a male lion and a male leopard, where this male leopard really gave the lion a beating, and luckily this leopard got away. And what the leopard did is it lay on its back and using all four paws. Every time the lion gets closer, just smashing it with all fours. And the lion had a few cuts on its face, so that was payback for that leopard that got killed. Right. Well, yeah, that's some of the more serious stuff. Let's keep moving. Let's see if we can find some happier sightings. So while we keep looking for some beautiful sightings and sights to show you, let's go see how Jamie's luck is turning out with following up on those leopards.
So far, no luck, but we're trying the best to increase our lucky odds by traveling roughly at walking speed. In fact, I'm pretty sure that if James on a good day was trying to outpace us, he could quite easily just by walking. And speaking of James, I had a good chuckle when I was on the damn wall there, because I thought he was calling me Fluffy for changing vehicles. Because I had changed vehicles for some reason, I was Fluffy. And I was sitting there thinking, that is strange even for James. That is a bit of a stretch, because I don't think I'm any fluffier than normal, just you. I was thinking, was my hair perhaps a bit frazzled because we were in a rush to try and change vehicles? Fussy. Fussy makes a lot more sense than Fluffy. I did wonder why James was calling me Fluffy. The joys of our earpieces is that occasionally we hear things wrong, so it's not just your names that we sometimes make a mistake about, it's occasionally what the other person is saying. Right, Karula. What have you seen, Rion? A bird to our left. Oh, that bird to the left, in the dead tree. I'm going to take a rough guess and say ring-necked dove. Let's see if I'm right. General impression of size and shape. The first key parts of birding. That is, in fact, a dove. Is it a ring-necked dove? Yes, it is. No, a laughing dove. There we go. So we got the family, not the species at first glance. Looks like a ring-necked, not a ring-necked, a laughing dove rather than the more common ring-necked dove. Well spotted, Rion. Definitely not a golden pipit, but it's a start. It is a start indeed. I found, when I was busy packing up my house, sorry, I'll tell you in a moment. Raisa, however did you guess Yes, it was in fact Tristan who found the bird gems, and yes, there was a great discussion on our group as to to annoy Brent. He wasn't so much annoyed as he was trying to bait Tristan into thinking that it was in fact a mis-ID and that it was a yellow-throated longclaw. And there was considerable debate and how do I describe this? A repetition of the two of them shouting at each other over instant messaging. One person saying pipette, the other pipit. Why can't I say pipit? What is wrong with me? And the other person shouting longclaw in caps lock. So yes, I don't know how you guessed that, Raisa, but yes, it was indeed Tristan that sent us that picture of the golden pipit. So well, very well done. Back to the laughing dove. I found a picture. I was busy tidying up because my parents moved from my childhood home not too long ago, so I went through a couple of months ago to help pack up, and I found my nature scrapbook. And in my nature scrapbook I had found a dove's nest, a laughing dove's nest, and in the laughing dove's nest was a chick. And I had written this scientific journal. I mean, my writing was terrible, so I couldn't have been more than about 5 or 6 years old. I don't know when I learned. No. Yeah, that must be about right. About 6 years old, you learn to really start scribbling out letters. And in it was day 1, breathing normal, color grey, and I listed all of the sort of the growth of the feathers and I must find it somewhere. It's an absolute. What happened to that chick? I just lost interest because it stopped at around day 19 or 20. But it was my little scientific journal that I'd kept of the laughing dove chick that was in our garden. I also once raised a baby mouse bird when I was around about 10 years old. It used to sleep here underneath my hair. And I raised it. And I will continue the story of Pidgey the mouse bird because I wasn't very good at naming things. In the meantime, let's go over to James and see how his search is going.
A wandering Jew. I'm not referring to Egbert. He's not Jewish. I'm referring to this plant. It is called a wandering Jew, or Commelina, and it hasn't quite opened. Many of the plants haven't quite opened yet. And while we look at them, I'll just quickly will show you Herbert over there. Through the trees. That must be quite artistic, Eggsy. Is it artistic?
It was almost, but then you moved.
But then I got in the way.
No, yeah.
Oh, I need to be in the way. Okay. Okay, good. And he's over there with James Sewella. And James Sewella is tracking at the moment for Rexon, who's driving for Vuyatela. All of whom, of course, have been involved in one way or another with Wild Earth for a long time. And they're looking at Karula and her cubs' tracks. We found tracks coming into this block. We are northeast of the dam, so Doug, thank you for that. And the tracks came in here. We found Impala tracks behind us running that way, which indicates that they came this way, and I think they've just now found another track of a leopard. It is almost impossible to track a leopard through terrain like this. The ground is crusted and hard from the rain that we've had, and then a bit of sun yesterday. A leopard doesn't weigh a lot, and of course it's got soft feet, and so they don't leave huge marks. It really is, this is the how do I want to say that? This is advanced tracking. This is master tracking going on here. This is not the kind of thing that I'm vaguely capable of doing. Following a rhino through terrain like this, pretty easy. Elephant, almost the same. Lion, a little bit easier. Leopard is the ultimate tracking challenge in terrain like this. And if you're doing a tracking assessment, for example, you'll be put on a track like this. You might track a leopard for 5 hours, but you have to find it if you're going to pass your senior tracking assessment. We obviously are not going to be tracking this thing for 5 hours, just because Eggsy, well, you know, he'd get sore carrying this pack for 5 hours, wouldn't you, Eggsy?
No, I'll be good.
Then, the other thing I wanted to show you here is this sesame plant, And you see how it hasn't opened, rather like the wandering Jew. It hasn't opened yet. The sun has just popped up. There we are. Gorgeous. Right, let's carry on. Robin Liverpool, very relevant question for the morning, of course. Brian has come up with a bit of a cough, and you want to know if there are any plants or trees that people will use for coughs out here. There are absolutely many plants that they will use for coughs and that sort of thing. In fact, the latest one I learnt about was something called Shinkanyankanya. And Shinkanyankanya, I can't see right now. It's a little herb that grows underneath the trees here. There might be some here. They like to grow in shade. I see not any Shinkanyankanya here. But Shinkanyankanya, unfortunately, has a rather nasty administration, in that it is administered through the lower end of the alimentary canal. In other words, not through the mouth, but through the... So what you do is you crush it up into a sort of paste, and then get it in there somehow, and apparently that helps with all forms of chest complaints. And if I can find the plant, I'll show it to you. But that's the most obvious one, but there'll be a number of others. There are a few sort of teas and things that you can brew from the roots of various trees that are supposed to help to ease pain. And many of those sorts of remedies actually out here have been shown, scientifically to have medicinal value. So that's very important. A lot of the others, though, for example, I think probably the enema I've just told you about, I'm not sure that would work particularly well. But as with so many medicines, of course, the placebo effect out here is extremely strong. And so it's very seldom that people have told me about these things and I've said, well, does it work? And it's very seldom that people have said, no, it doesn't work at all. It's ridiculous to put a tree into your bottom and expect it to help your tuberculosis. I'm very glad I've never had to do that, I must confess. Here it is. Here it is, right here. This is Shinkanyankanya. So you squash this up, and it makes kind of a gummy paste once you've mixed it with a bit of water. There we go, Eggsy.
No.
You're feeling, you're not, suddenly your cough's gone, has it?
I've never had a cough. It works, yeah. It works.
That is Shinkanyankanya. Eggsy said he never had a cough. He's never coughed in his life. I'm trying to think of another one. Somebody thinks that perhaps I'm making this up or I've had my leg pulled. No, I'm not. Really, Rexon taught me that the other day, and I spoke to him very seriously about it, and I take all of these things very seriously because it is there's a huge amount of indigenous knowledge that is just disappearing at the moment, and so as soon as somebody who's prepared to share that sort of stuff, and Herbert, of course, is a mine of information because his mother is a traditional healer, I take it extremely seriously, and I was very careful to investigate and make sure that he wasn't pulling my leg when he picked Shinkanyankanya and told me. And Rexon says he's used it and it helps him. So who's to say? It could easily work. Oh, John in California, I think the craziest thing, you say, what's the craziest thing I've ever eaten in the bush? I think you'll find that the craziest thing I've ever eaten in the bush, or that you'd find the craziest thing I've ever eaten in the bush, is something called a Mopani worm, which is a caterpillar of a very large butterfly moth, an emperor moth, not that big, and the caterpillar's about that big, fat and oozing, and it's red and black and white, which normally means don't touch me, don't eat me. And there are a number of ways you can eat these things. You pluck them off the tree, then you squeeze the guts out and eat them straight like that. I mercifully haven't had to do that. But you can also dry them in the sun, and then you fry them up. And they taste a little bit like gamey sawdust, which isn't particularly delicious. And if you cook them in strong enough flavouring, well, then they just taste like that flavouring. But they're extremely important part of the protein requirements of any other, of a lot of the local people here. In fact, all the way up into southern Zambia, they form a hugely important part of the protein requirements in a place where there are a lot of poor people and protein is hard to come by. So that's probably the craziest thing that I've eaten out here. There's not a lot of craziness to eat out here. You can eat, of course, termites. Steph is renowned for eating them, especially on camera. There are a lot of roots and things, but that's not particularly crazy. I think as soon as you start putting invertebrates into your mouth, people start to go, ugh. And that's pretty disgusting, I suppose. If you were, however, stuck out here, let's pretend you were stuck out here and all of the 5-star lodges of the Sabi Sands had ceased to exist, and you were desperately in need of food, but you didn't have a weapon. I think one of the most difficult things for a human being to ingest would be raw bone marrow, but it's hugely nutritious. So were you to find, say, lions on a buffalo, and you could chase them off briefly and get hold of a piece of the femur and crack it open, that bone marrow inside would be extremely valuable to eat, and I think that would probably be quite difficult to put into the mouth. Yeah. So that would be it. Oh, you know what? There's one other thing I'll tell you about. Just while I tell you, what we're doing here is we're walking very slowly through here because we are actually on the tracks. These guys they found a track just, in fact, where Eggsy's standing now. I can't see it, but this is the direction she's gone. So we're just following very slowly behind Herbie and James, and they're on the tracks as we speak. The final sort of rite of passage before I became a guide was that we had to go out and hunt an impala and carry it back to camp. Now that might sound, especially to those of you who are a little bit more squeamish, it might sound like a very barbaric and, I suppose, unadvanced, primitive way, if you like, of becoming a guide or passing a rite of passage. But it was very important because I was from the city. I'd never shot anything in my life before. I needed to know that I could fire a weapon and kill something and do it relatively comfortably, and also that I could then appreciate how difficult it was for a predator. Just keep going, Eggsy. For a predator to catch something. So it took me a long time to do it, and it wasn't easy at all. But that's another story. The story I wanted to tell you was that once I'd done it, it's a little bit gory. I cut open the gut and took the bowel out to make it slightly lighter for me to carry home. I wasn't, the strapping lad I am now. And when I got home, the tracker said to me, "Where's the stomach?" And I said, "Well, I left it in the bush." They said, "Take us there now." So I took them out there, and they picked up the stomach, took it home, and I didn't think anything of it until I came out of my room a little while later, and the head tracker said to me, he said, "Come and eat, share with us." And they had cooked up some maize meal porridge, which is the kind of staple diet of people out here, and then they had boiled the stomach. They'd obviously cleaned out the bolus. They'd cleaned out the grass that had been digested there, and they'd cooked the stomach and the lining, and they said, "Come and have some." Well, I could smell it. I can still smell that smell now, and I could smell it from miles off, and I took a piece, and I took a tiny little bite into my mouth, and I was retching. That was the most disgusting thing that I've ever eaten out here in the bush. Right, that's enough from me. Let's head across to Jamie, who's got a bird very depressed.
Oh, just listen to the sound quickly. I'm not going to talk over it. is that? A red-crested korhaan doing his territorial call first thing in the morning, sitting on top of a termite mound so that the sound travels a little bit further. A beautiful bird of the bustard family. That's B-U-S-T... wait, hold on. B-U-S-T-A-R-D. The bustard family. The family with the heaviest flying bird, the Corey bustard. This is one of the smaller members. He's going to do it again. And so there you go. Next time you hear that sound, you'll be able to picture the bird performing the display. So it's interesting. A series of clicks and then whistles. And I'm hoping, come on, mister, that he might do his full display. And by that, sorry boy, I keep interrupting you. By that I mean I'm hoping that he's going to fly up into the air and come tumbling out of the sky. Each and every phrase punctuated by the call of the red-crested korhaan. I can't hear another one calling in response to him, which is what I was hoping for, because as soon as he's presented with another male competition, he might actually do his flight display, which is to fly up very high into the sky and then come tumbling out of it. And I don't think any of us have got it on camera, at least this season. I've seen one do it once. Yeah, oh. Come on. Or at least show us your red crest. Come on. I've only ever seen the red crest of a red-crested korhaan once. You very, very seldom see it. It's hidden underneath that grey patch on his head. And he only really displays it when he is properly angry or when he is properly trying to court a female. And I'll show you a picture of it in a moment. I'm just waiting for him. Come on, boy. Look at you. You're bending your legs and everything. Creating false expectations here. Amber, you say you love how you can see his tongue. I know exactly what you mean. It's so sweet. And I said I was going to show you a picture, and I'm sorry, you'll have to hold on a second because I left my app at home, which is very, very silly of me. So I'll find you a picture in a second. Come on, boy. Give us a display. We need another male here. I'm just trying to, bear with me one moment, I'm just trying to see if I can find a picture of a korhaan in full display. No, I can't. Hopefully he will whistle once again. Now Robin, while we watch him and wait for him to continue his display, since he seems to have gone relatively quiet, Robin, you want to know whether or not birds have vocal cords. And the answer is yes, they do. It's modified so that they have a tympanic membrane within their larynx that sort of can vibrate and create that whistling sound. So they do have vocal cords. It's not really a vocal cord though. It's produced in a box called I think it's called a syrinx rather than a larynx. So it's not exactly the same as a human being. So they're not proper vocal cords. But a syrinx is... Oh, I thought he was going to do it for us, but he's not. So basically a syrinx, rather than having vocal cords in the way that we understand it, so the folds within the box, it's got a tympanic membrane that vibrates and produces those vibrations. Now, I can't remember completely off the top of my head exactly how that anatomy works. So they don't have a larynx, they have a syrinx and a tympanic membrane. So it's not exactly vocal folds. It's produced in a slightly different way to the way that we produce our sounds, which of course creates the whistling combination. And there's so many different combination of calls, often combined in the same way that this red-crested korhaan was doing with something known as bill snapping, which is very, very rapid smacking of the bill together to create that knocking sound. And lots of things do it. Things like grey-headed bushshrikes have that ghostly whistle, but if you listen to their sort of secondary call, the whistle is often preceded or followed by the snapping of the bill. He's gone quiet now. And there's a whole range of different calls. It's not just the whistles or the trill, like in the crested barbet, where they basically circular breathe to produce an almost continuous whistling, trilling sound. Things like woodpeckers will also use the knocking of the bill against the wood as part of a territorial call or a vocalization. And there's difference between calls and songs, and I should actually be more sort of specific about that. This is the Korhann's song, his regular song, and that is him communicating to all of the other birds that this is what he's up to. It's part of his dawn chorus, and also just letting the other males know that this is his area, and any ladies who know that this is his area as well. Whereas a call actually is really more contact between birds that are in a group together. And in the dawn at this time of morning, we get the best sounds. Now I'm going to try something because I'm going to move on. But as I start the engine, I think we should stay on the bird, because sometimes, for some reason with red-crested korhaans, starting the engine triggers them. And it seems to do it more with diesel engines than petrol engines. We are in a petrol engine. Oh wait, hold on, I can hear another korhaan calling before I start up. There's a termite there. Or a dead alate, a reproductive winged termite, but he's not interested in breakfast, he's interested in mating. There we go again. He's calling in response to a male that's actually quite far away, I think on Buffelshoek. Okay. Let's see what happens if I start up my engine. Probably won't work, but you never know. Let's wait for him to start calling. No. Wait. Some very interesting sounds coming from Jigger. Come on, boy. Oh, frantic. There he goes, there he goes, there he goes, there he goes. Hey! Oh. There we go. Look, he's running back. Ah, finally. I know it was behind the trees. Well done, Rion. That was a very, very, very difficult thing to do. A very difficult thing to catch on camera, and it was right behind the trees, but we finally got to the suicide bird display, the tumbling out of the sky. And then I love how he ran afterwards. Well done, Rion. That was excellent. Very, very cool. I just had a feeling as he started to call frantically like that perhaps we were going to get lucky. Yes, finally. There's another one still calling in the background. Now, he's probably not going to do it again, but because I've said that, let's just sit for an extra few seconds and just see whether he decides to do it. Had frantic flapping and then tumble out of the sky. Now, bear in mind just how skilled our cameramen have to be, because this is all live, and wild animals are so very, very unpredictable in the way in which they do things. Right. Did you have fun doing that? Looking around. Yes, we saw you. I'm not sure that any other korhaans saw you, but we did. And we are very, very impressed with you. Yes, we are. Right, what are you going to do now? Now I'm curious. Are you going to go back to your termite mound? Are you going to call again now that you've done that impressive display? Sorry everybody, I'm also just listening with half an ear to the game drive comms.
Seems like the car really did it.
I think I know the car was. I'm wondering if the car played a role because it's interesting now that Jigger's starter seems to create a vibration, which actually worries me slightly. But moving on from that, I think that might actually have made a difference. I don't know. I just know that was very, very cool. But it's definitely preceded by frantic whistling. That was very cool. I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer just to see if there's a chance he's going to do that again. And I need to chat on the Game Drive comms. So while I do that, let's go over to FW with a tiny antelope.
So we've made it all the way to Chitwa at the moment. And exploring Chitwa a bit more, we found a beautiful Steenbok couple. I think that's the female we're looking at. The male is not far from her, but he is a bit more shy, somewhere behind the bush there. It's nice to spend a bit of time with them. Normally you just drive past going Steenbok and it bolts off and it runs off. But yeah, these two are nice and relaxed. We've been here with them for a couple of minutes. Now when you're looking at Steenbok, and a quick differentiation between them and duiker. See the white on the inside of their legs, on their rump? That is very distinctive of them, and they're a bit red, more reddish in color than the duiker. So even when they're running off, you can see that white immediately, and you know that's a little Steenbok. Quite a big difference in their tracks as well. I just want to have a look and see if I can get a comparison of their tracks versus a duiker's track. But a Steenbok has got a very thin, long, narrow, almost heart-shaped track, where a duiker has got more of a rounded, almost like a torpedo-shaped track. Now it's just finding. Let's see if I can find something. No. Looks like I don't have a but yeah, this is a bit bigger, but a quick reference would be, this is a Springbok track just on the size, but the same shape. You see that heart shape, quite thin in the front here, and comes out, forms a nice heart. A lot smaller though, it might only be about this size. Would the Steenbok, and then a duiker track would look very similar to this one here. See much more rounded edges to the very straight edge of the Springbok. So this is bushbuck and Springbok, but it's the closest we'll get to a comparison of the two of the smallest antelope species in this area. Well, on that note, let's keep moving.